evils of our arms and our hearts. I bear witness that none deserves to be worshipped except Allah alone, the guardian of the righteous. I bear witness that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is Allah's apostle and servant. I seek Allah's choicest blessings upon him, upon members of his worthy household, his courageous companions, and upon all those who will continue to follow their footsteps till the day of accounting. Thereafter, I extend the best courtesy by saying, may Allah's peace and blessings abide with us. Good evening and welcome to tonight's Talim. We thank and appreciate Allah for the gift of life, the gift of faith, security, peace of mind, good health and happiness. We ask Allah to accept our gratitude and increase his favors in these and other regards in our lives. We are discussing old age and how to manage it. We want to attempt to start and finish grandparenting tonight. We are going to look at only very few critical issues. However, if there are others that we consider more critical or equally critical, we can raise it. I'm happy that on the platform tonight, our mother is here, and a few other young grandparents. So we rely on you to put us through. And those who have had experience with their grandparents, we also contribute tonight. We are going to try as much as possible to make it interactive. We must remind ourselves that, number one, this matter is being discussed not only for those who are already grandparents, but for those who have grandparents, and for those who will soon become grandparents. Number two, whatever we discuss tonight is on the average. It is not a perfect one-size-fits-all. It cannot be used to generalize. In other words, there is a limitation in this research. The fact that we are talking about average means there could be extremely deviating circumstances and persons that are not strictly at the middle. They are not ordinary. They are either extremely good and extremely not quite average. So when we have situations like this, it is just one of the limitations of our on-the-field research. So once again, you're welcome to Talim tonight. We want to talk about, like I said, critical issues in grandparenting. Number one, delayed middle age syndrome will affect grandparenting greatly. Number two, extreme cases of coincidence of grandparenting with middle age will affect performance as grandparents. This is what I mean. We expect that on the average, Somebody may not become a grandparent until around 50. We expect, therefore, that it will flow with old age. And so there may be minimum conflict, which is a critical issue in grandparenting. Two, we find situations where somebody marries as a teenager and something also happened in 15, 20 years after, and the person has a child who also becomes a parent before, usually women in the North here, before she's 36, she's already a grandmother. The grandpa may be a relatively older person, but sometimes we also see grandpas that are just in their early 40s. He married early, he had a child around 20. The child also marries before 20. And so before 40, the man is already a grandfather. Grandparents like this will face very critical situations. They are battling with their own life. They are in secondary delinquency. The primary one is juvenile. The secondary one is middle age syndrome. And these things are not good, to distract people. They will be, in most cases, very bad grandparents. In fact, they will run away from their responsibilities as grandparents. So their children and grandchildren are usually on their own. So the children will miss the critical milestone in their lives, the love and warmth of grandparents. Ordinarily, by the time children start coming, on the average, the grandpa and grandma will have been winding up their middle age syndrome, even if they are still suffering from delayed middle age. Up till 60, the presence and growth of grandparents become very useful distraction from their tertiary syndrome, either delayed middle age syndrome or early old age symptoms like forgetfulness, like irritability, like temperament, and so on. Transferred aggression, transferred frustration, unhappiness that cannot be explained, and so on. So they find joy in their grandchildren. But where we have these extremes, where the grandparents are very young, also needing or having grandparents too. It's very bad relief now. Why are people behaving like this? Post new team now. So where grandpa and grandma also have grandpa and grandma, where their own grandpa and grandma, now great grandparents, do not come to their aid, they are in trouble. They will mismanage their grandchildren by running away from responsibilities and creating crises for their children. Every child needs the love of grandparents, but not every child is lucky to enjoy it. Now, what are the issues? Number one issue is that you can hardly, I don't know circumstances that can make you a grandparent without being a mother and father-in-law. I'm not saying there are no circumstances, but if you know, you can think along with me. On the average, a grandpa is a father-in-law. A grandma is a mother-in-law. Being parents-in-law presents a peculiar circumstance. It is natural, it is psychological. Naturally, an average woman is jealous of the other woman. We find, interestingly, in a polygamous setting, the mother-in-law will be very careful not to display jealousy to her daughter-in-law. She had fought all her fights with her co-wives. So out of competition, we find that a mother-in-law, Mommy Sefesoron, Alaja Kadiri, you have raised your hand. Do you want to talk? Okay. We can go on. Maybe something happened and Mommy raised her hand.
I think it's accidental. I can continue, sir.
Okay, thank you, sir. Yeah, we have a situation where in a polygamous setting, the mother-in-law, out of competition with other women, will love her daughter-in-law, love her grandchildren, pamper both mother and children to the consternation, frustration, annoyance of our co-wives. In this situation, we are not saying there is no jealousy. The jealousy is transferred to the co-wives to frustrate them, to make them angry, and to do some other things that women do. But usually when the grandma is just one wife, there is tendency to look at the possessiveness of the daughter-in-law as affront, as confrontation. She may also be a little stupid, and when we count everything together, we arrive at unnecessary jealousy, unnecessary tension, unnecessary conflict, and then work will start for grandpa. So the first thing is that this jealousy is a very useless, very dangerous distraction. So that when jealousy becomes envy, envy becomes hatred, you are not likely to discharge your responsibility towards your grandchildren. And sometimes granddaughters will now consider their mothers-in-laws as enemies. They start fighting. So a daughter-in-law that fights you is not giving you opportunity to take care of her children. At the point of fighting mothers-in-laws, they do not even want to have the mothers-in-laws. They don't want to allow the mother-in-laws to have access to their children and the grandchildren of the mothers-in-laws. So we have this situation. When this happens, who solves the problem? The father-in-law, the grandpa, must borrow the wisdom of Solomon to keep tension down, to resolve the conflict. A stupid father-in-law will transfer his love for his daughter to his daughter-in-law and will mismanage the situation. When he does that, he may even stupidly chide his wife in the presence of the daughter-in-law, thus placing his wife in the hands of her daughter-in-law and making nonsense of the home. This will neither please the son nor please the mother. And the father-in-law is on his own if his son, aligns with his mother and then sends the wife away. It has happened several times that the father-in-law, the grandpa, mismanages the relationship between his wife, grandma, and his daughter-in-law to the extent that the husband, who is the son, decides to divorce his wife. So the conflicts are in three ways: between mother-in-law, the grandma, and daughter-in-law. Between grandma and grandpa. It is the daughter-in-law, that will be the cause of this conflict. And unless the father-in-law is very careful, he may even be accused of dating his daughter-in-law. There are extremely jealous women that will interpret every intervention by their husband in this conflict as a promiscuous intervention. And they will be able to sometimes convince their sons that his father is dating his wife, and the crisis will escalate. Who is the loser in all this? It is the grandma. Because if it leads to divorce, she would definitely not like the grandchildren, and then she may begin to doubt the paternity of the grandchildren. If it gets into her head that her husband is dating her daughter-in-law, then only Allah can take it away from both grandma and the husband. The third wave of the conflict is between grandma and grandpa. This time, when there is no problem, there is peace. The grandma will always over-pamper the grandchildren. It's not every grandma that can control their emotion. The grandma always wish that what the father did not enjoy, because when they were starting, they were poor, the grandchildren should not miss. Ordinarily, it's a biological and psychological condition that a woman always wants to take care of children. The only thing she misses is to breastfeed. Sometimes the gap between the last born and the first grandchild may be up to 20 years. Sometimes, even if it is not more than 10 years, that your firstborn is more than 10 years older than your lastborn, and so you are able to have a grandchild after 10 years of having your last child. It is still a long time. So every woman wants to take care of children. So what this conflict presents that I know are two. Number one, the daughter-in-law wants to be possessive. She doesn't want to release her child. The mother-in-law, the grandma, wants to take care of a child. It's a tug of war. So where there is no love or intelligence, either that they both don't love each other, they don't trust each other. So the stupid daughter-in-law does not want her mother-in-law to touch her child, who is a grandchild. The grandmother wants to possess the child. So between them, there will be trouble. And if she does not release the child, the hatred will be transferred to the child. And then most grandmas become very, very tense. You know, it is a biological and psychological condition. So she wants to have a baby. The only thing she cannot do is to breastfeed the baby, but she wants to have the baby. The mother of the baby, who is a daughter-in-law, will now begin to think that, did I come here to be a baby factory for you? If you want to have a baby, why don't you tell your husband to get you pregnant and have a baby? This baby is my own. If you want to have your own, go have your own. I did not come here to produce children for you to take care of. Let me also take care of my baby. When this conflict reaches us, what they usually say in public is that, not that I don't want grandma to touch our grandchild. I just want to also learn. I also want to learn. And then grandma will also say, this is the way to teach you. And that is the loving way to resolve the conflict. But ordinarily, it is still a product of natural jealousy between women. So this one affects the child. The second wave is when when grandma overpampers the grandchild. Some grandpa will poke their nose there, perhaps because they don't have much, they have retired, and grandma is demanding money for biscuit, for sweet, for chewing gum, for toy, for everything, for different kind of food. If a grandchild asks for rice, before rice is ready, he changes it to beans. When beans is ready, he wants white colored beans. If a grandma is not firm and strong, she will want to provide everything and anything. If a grandpa does not like this kind of thing, any attempt to caution grandma will result to conflict. Grandma will say, I'm wondering why you don't like this child. If the child resembles the father, is it because he resembles his father? And that is if the father does not resemble his own father. He cannot resemble you because he resembles only his father. Sometimes grandmas will ask grandpa, are you suspecting the paternity of this child? Is that why you hate the child so much? So grandchildren sometimes are sources of conflict between grandpa and grandma. At this point, grandpa needs the wisdom of Solomon and the patience of Job, to resolve this crisis. It's just a natural thing from women. They want to have children. They always want to have children. And whatever they missed, they don't want their children to miss. Whatever their children missed, they don't want their grandchildren to miss. And again, there is this thing that I want our women on the platform to confirm. Sometimes when a woman complains that she's not receiving care, and you sit her down and say, explain, what kind of care do you want your husband to give you? That is when the husband has become tired, that you're not caring, you're not caring, you're not caring. And the wife does not know how to explain the care that she wants. This is also transferred to their grandchildren. Yeah, don't you think, Grandpa, don't you think that our children, they are not taking care of our grandchildren enough? Grandpa may not understand what grandma means. Grandma does not know how to explain. Grandma may think that they are not eating good food. That's why they are not looking good. How good does grandma want grandchildren to look? She doesn't know. She just feels that they're not looking good enough. And the pressure will be on grandpa to assist the young couple, the parents, to take care of her grandchildren. She wants to look at her grandchildren and be very happy as very beautiful children. But sometimes nature does not make children respond to care. The pressure is always coming from grandma, and the pressure is always on grandpa. Sometimes grandpa is in his 60s, he has retired, he really doesn't have money. And the parents, the primary parents, may be struggling and do not also have money. So grandpa now needs the wisdom of Solomon and the patience of Job to navigate this situation. The second issue, yeah, grandparenting requires plenty of time. The grandma that is still working is at the frustrating risk of not seeing her grandchildren the way she wants to see them. Most of our children do not live with us, and this presents a very serious situation. Most grandmas either relocate to their children's home to do omugo if they have retired. And this also causes conflict between them, between grandma and grandpa. If grandpa is a monogamist, some grandpas will now even at that point marry a young woman who will stay with them whenever grandma goes to do omugo and refuses to come back home because she wants to take care of children. It is quite natural. Where the children live in the same vicinity, then grandma will spend more time with the grandchildren than with her husband. This also causes conflict. Mute this man now. Then, where grandma, we can only see her grandchildren during the weekends. She misses them. And these 2-3 days that they will spend, now wow, they will over pamper them. And some grandpas don't like it. So it causes conflict because it costs a lot of money to take care of small children. Adults are easier and probably cheaper. Females are more expensive, whether as children or adults. So all these things cause conflict. Now, some men, because of this trouble in future, decide to marry 2-3 before they become grandparents. So the usual excuse is that mama will go, mommy will go, and it will remain only daddy at home. In this case, daddy does not want to see the grandchildren who pulled his wife away. That is, if they don't live in the same vicinity. The best way is to pray that Allah makes our children to live with us, so that at any point during holiday, weekends, we will always be seeing our grandchildren. I also ask Allah to give us the wisdom to manage the conflicts associated with grandparenting. Another conflict is when there is delayed middle age syndrome. You have become a grandfather, you have become a grandmother, your grandchildren are around, but you are still struggling with life. You are still battling with your ambition. You don't have time for your grandchildren. Now, the grandchildren will get used to grandma and they begin to hate you. What usually happens is that it is grandpas that nag more than grandmas. But sometimes we find grandmas nagging. Sometimes for a very funny reason, the children look like their mothers. Grandma is not happy at all. And he starts nagging. Oh, you are doing this. Any prank is because the mother was like that. The mother must have been this bad. So we have this situation, nagging. Sometimes it is grandpa that nags. And when grandpa will nag, he will tell story. This is how your father was. Everything is, your father was worse. Sometimes children around 4, 5 don't like it. When you nag them and compare them with their fathers, they may go to their fathers and ask them questions. Sometimes grandpas will mistakenly abuse grandchildren. And they will say, very stupid like your father. Then grandchildren will go and ask their father, Daddy, are you stupid? And when his dad becomes surprised, he will say, Grandpa said you are stupid. Grandpa said, I am stupid like you. And then the conflict will begin to spread, to get deep. So men that are living under one kind of frustration or another transfer their aggression on their grandchildren, and so the grandchildren begin to react. What eventually happens is that grandchildren will hate grandpa. When their parents get to know there's going to be problem, So children behave funny most of the time, and grandpa has to be extremely careful. Don't nag. Don't transfer your aggression on the children. But the good side is this. Almost every grandchild, especially females, love grandpa. They regard grandma as their kitchen, as their housemaid. Everything they want must be from grandma. Grandma must take care of them. Grandma must clean them up. Grandma must give them pampers. Grandma must give them biscuit. Grandma must feed them. But if it is to play, almost every child wants to play with grandpa. They want to follow grandpa because grandpa is the one that always goes out. Children always want to go out. So they want to follow grandpa to the mosque. They want to follow grandpa to have a walk. They want to just do whatever grandpa does. Sometimes grandpas feel irritated by this very strong attachment of grandchildren to grandpas. We must be happy that our grandchildren want to play with us. Sometimes grandchildren want to even box grandpa. You challenge grandpa to a duel, let us fight. Whether it's a girl or it's a boy, they want to fight. Professor of English, strong play. Grandchildren want to play with grandpas. They want grandpa to kneel down, they want to jump on his back, and they want grandpa to carry them as like a horse. They are very friendly with grandpas. They want grandpa, sometimes they wear grandpa's shoes, sometimes they want to
They struggle with grandpa.
They struggle with grandpa. Yeah. They play with grandpa, they struggle with grandpa, they fight with grandpa, they learn from grandpa. The last good point is that the duty of grandpa is essentially, apart from play and while playing, is to teach grandchildren language, culture, and religion. Language, culture, and religion. I bring religion last because grandpa will pray, grandpa will do nafila, and grandchildren will just imitate grandpa. They will perform ablution because they're always following grandpa. If grandpa performs ablution, they will perform ablution. If grandpa prays, they will pray. But grandpa would need to teach them Tawheed as they are growing because they trust grandpa more than their parents. Their parents may be impatient. Their parents may be reacting to circumstances around them. Grandpa has reached the point where he has a better understanding and he has calmed down. So you must teach them the Akida, your religion, as you play with them. But you must speak your language to them. And grandpa must tell them the relationships in the family. Grandpa should tell them who their uncle is. Every child takes everybody as equal, except grandma and grandpa. So the children must be taught, this is your uncle, this is your auntie, this is a big daddy, this is a second daddy, and the rest of them. Anyway, they will get to know that these are members of the family. If they have other cousins, it is grandpa that will mix them together, that will relate them to each other, that will bond them. For reasons, grandma may not be able to do it because the job of the grandma is enormous whenever grandchildren are around. She may have to change her clothes as many times as grandchildren have to change their clothes. And there's a lot of trouble for grandma. But for grandpa, he's just their friend. So he has the duty to be their teacher. So these are the issues. Grandpa should bond the family. Grandpa should teach the language and culture of the children, and grandpa should give spiritual orientation to grandchildren. This is how far I remember. I hope very sincerely that we are done with this issue tonight. However, I'm open to enrichment and further enlightenment. I ask Allah to strengthen us, to enable us, to give us the capacity to discharge these responsibilities. You can never stop being parents. When you finish your parenting, you start grandparenting. And a father is a teacher forever. And a teacher needs the wisdom of Sulaiman, patience of Ayub. We must not allow our grandchildren to be the source of our unhappiness at old age. We must be extremely careful to be happy due to them and not to make them the cause of unhappiness. ربنا هب لنا من ازواجنا وذرياتنا قرة اعين واجعلنا للمتقين اماما. اقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم. I want to see your digital hand or address the chat room as we interact. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Thank you very much. Grandpas are also ATM. I think I mentioned it now. Grandpa must be able to spend. That is why when grandma insists that grandchildren must be as beautiful as she cannot imagine, and they must receive care that she doesn't know how to describe. The pressure is always on grandpa. He must cough out money. And when grandpa has retired, he doesn't have much money, he begins to react. So especially during holidays when grandchildren will be dumped in your house, is a lot of money during holidays. And those who are around every weekend, I don't know whether they teach themselves. Once there is cordiality between you and your children, the next thing is that they dump their children with you every weekend. So you know that you have to spend money, a lot of money. It is very costly. Thank you, sir.
Engineer Adu, are you on the call?
While I'm waiting for you, this weekend is our gathering of marriageable singles. We are going to have it physically at Sheikh Hamdan Science Secondary School Hall by 10 a.m. this Saturday, Kogolada FCT. It is possible to get them together in any other chapter. Let's try. Then the link is on message and sort. Let us spread the link so that they can join us through Zoom. We are hoping that inshallah ta'ala, whatever we came out with, we are going to adopt it and borrow it. It is not strictly Dawa Front program. I only happen to be chairman of the Dawa committee of a particular mosque where we did family seminar, and the outcome is a demand for a gathering of marriageable singles. They said our marriageable children do not know each other. They don't interact. So they tend to meet wrong people. So we want to do the experiment this Saturday in Abuja, and the link is there so that we can spread it. Maybe national coordinator is listening to us now. Our national coordinator will now generate a program like that nationally so that we can bring our children along. Age 14 for girls, age 16 for boys and above. It's not only children. Divorcees, widows that are single mothers that are marriageable. Allah may provide. Let us begin to interact with them. Those of us who are in charge of the youth, have not seen any. Let me see whether there's any youth today. Idris Agbelu, I've seen you. Yeah. So whoever has the link, let us see the link. Let's send the link to the chat room before we finish. The link is on message and sort. Whoever is on message and sort can get us the link and put it on our chat room. Thank you. Dr. Zikrullah, followed by Ustaz Oyedele Raouf. Dr. Zikrullah, let's hear you.
Assalamu alaikum to Laisa.
Walaikum salam.
Well, Jazakallah khairan for the insight to this all important issue. Though far from being grandpa, but I have to have parents and have children who my children has to interact with as grandpa and grandparents. And just like you have said, the issue of most of the time is the fact that the children see the grandpa as ATM, like I said. Grandpa want to buy that, and grandpa cannot afford to say, I don't have money. He must grandpa. And so my recommendation for those of us who likes to go and dump, I also have sisters who like to go and dump children with grandma at every possible holiday. And what I recommend that we should do to support the grandparents, when we're taking these children there, let us pack as many menu that we know the children will like along and drop them to them and give grandpa pocket money to ease the tension, because the children don't want to hear that grandpa don't have money. So if we are going to go and drop children with grandparents, let us pack enough food, especially the papanos, along and drop them packet of packs of biscuit. These are things that children will always ask for. For my mom will tell me that the children is one that will determine what they will eat every morning. Mommy, this mama, grandma, we are eating egg and bread this morning. And grandma has no choice to prepare egg and bread that morning. So if there is no egg at home, there is trouble. So if you are taking children to them, let us do. And if you are leaving, please drop pocket money for grandpa, because the children will ask for suya and then what they used to ask for, this fish. They used to barbecue. They will ask for barbecue and ask for all this. So we must assist these grandparents financially and economically. Jazakallah khairan.
Why, thank you very much. Jazakallah khaira. Ustaz Oyedele Rauf.
Yeah, Assalamu alaikum, sir. Alhamdulillah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continue to increase you in every goodness. Now, particularly what interests me in part of your speech was this issue that has to do with living together with our grandchildren. That is, living together in the same apartment, in the same house. When we look at the way Yoruba compound was conceptualized, the Agbole type, you have daddy, mommy, in fact, grandfather, grandmother sometimes, together with children, uncle, like that. They stay together. And at any point in time, the generations, about 3 or 4 generations within the same compound, every child will have orientation. We have people who are the age mate of their parents, then their grandparents, and then those who are younger than them. At any point in time, there will not be the absence of children in a compound. There won't be the absence of the middle age or the adult, the grandparent, like that. So every child, wherever he is, the orientation is complete. But now, when we look at the way we live nowadays, it started from some of our elders and some of us again, because the moment we leave secondary school, because of when we leave secondary school, we get out of home. When we finish a higher institution, we try to form our own family. We don't stay with our parents again. And similarly like that, it happens. And generally, our compound building turns to face me, I slap you type. From that to flat, and from flat to self-contained, in fact, to 1-bedroom apartment nowadays. So in this kind of milieu, and the way the family is shrinking, everybody wants to live on his own like that. In what way can we enhance living together, living as a family, to having that kind of orientation that I think Islam supports? So in what way can we have that kind of living with our family, seeing where our places of work are diverse like that? So it's what baffles me on how we can achieve the kind of thing. I really enjoy the recommendation of Dr. Zikola with respect to giving aid to our parents, to the grandparents, give them something. The other children, they can become very stubborn when it comes. So my own aspect is what the clear question: how do we engender this kind of family living? And this is some of the thing that is lost in the West, and Islam is being looked at as a solution. But how do we achieve this kind of thing, especially in our home here, where we are also breaking, trying to atomize family? Everybody want to be on his own. Assalamu
Alaikum salam. Yeah, the job is in the hands of two categories of people. The critical I don't know. I don't want to say imams because our experience has shown that even some of the imams have more challenging problems in their families than the followers. But ordinarily, the imam should be the model to make sure that even if they don't have parents to model as grandparents of their own children, they should be models for others as grandparents. Whether we like it or not, many of us are already grandparents, and the remaining of us, will become grandparents. So what we probably missed, our children should not miss. We had very brief opportunity, and we are happy that one of our mothers stayed with us, influenced our children to learn our language and to also be very calm and mature. For example, one of my own children, who was very close to his grandmother, is probably the most matured, although he's not the eldest. But we believe that his interaction with his grandmother made him to be very, very mature. A lot of things are different in his life. So that makes us to believe that is a very critical milestone. Not having grandparents is a big gap in one's life. And that is why we are trying our best to make sure that our children are not thrown away. Where they are some distance away from us, it is our duty to visit them. So if we have male children, it is the duty of grandpa and grandma to visit them. We do it. We just decide to go to their house and stay with them instead of expecting them to bring the children to us. We sometimes go and stay in their own place. Where they are outside our station, we can take the model of Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam to pay them visit. Where they are abroad, we have a duty to pay them visit. However, where our own children are our daughters, there may be a small problem. What we can make sure happens is what we didn't understand when we were growing, when we wanted to marry, which we now have to understand, is that it doesn't make sense for your daughter to marry too distant away from you. It is better for your daughter to marry from the environment where you live. Number one, you'll be able to know the husband and the parents. And so seeing your daughter will not be a very difficult task. So we make sure we don't throw our daughters away. That's very dangerous. Sometimes the cause of divorce is the distance between our daughters and us. You can't quickly go and sort out things. It is better that your daughter is not far from you, so that when she starts having her children, your grandchildren will not be difficult to reach when you want to reach it. There are other things we can do. Living together, although that is very costly, the responsibility of bonding the family of faith is in the hands of the leadership. And we are hoping that Allah will help us to achieve this as much as possible. One of the reasons we are starting gathering of marriageable singles, one of the reasons we started several years ago, about 30 years ago, this idea of family talim, family seminar. You will notice that this particular program is just a response to a family program at our Daura, that we do every December. Our cardinal principle is that if we can miss anything or fail in anything, we must not fail in family. May Allah hold our families together and strengthen us and enable the leadership to lead us to success. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم. Yeah. The girls that pick husband from school is not in charge of our family. We are in charge. We can reject husband that we don't know. Yes, we can reject husband that we don't know. We can only approve a husband whose parents we know, because the Yoruba philosophy is not un-Islamic. So we should not be blind. Our blindness has affected us in many ways. We should not be blind today. There are many homes that are just being stitched together, and there are pretexts everywhere. There are broken homes that they're just being there. They don't want embarrassment. And there are people who have courageously walked out of their marriages. May Allah save us from fitna. Can we have the coordinator to close the program? Ajani's iPhone, I think it's late. However,
You want to take him? Can you give you 1 minute? Ajani's iPhone, 1 minute, please.
Salaam alaikum. Thank you very much, Prof. We pray Allah to increase you in knowledge and make the knowledge be extended to your children and grandchildren, and including those of us who have been benefiting from your knowledge. I want to ask a sort of 1 or 2 questions which are derived from the last 2 speakers. Number 1, 2 categories of parenting or grandparenting have been mentioned. The first one by transferring children to the grandparents on holiday or for some time. Then the second one, the grandparents living with them as a whole family together. Now, I want to ask, what of those who don't have parents, how can we make our children to accept something like make them know extended family, like to encourage parents themselves to extend taking care of extending their distance to their extended family, like somebody who has no mother or father, to encourage like the aunties from the mother to be living with them, so that the children will also know them, that this can serve as a grandparents for them. And again, to what extent can this extended family issue be encouraged, both in Islam and the general living? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Daddy.
Yes.
You see, sir, number one, what Allah wants is that we live together.
Yes.
If we want to relocate, we also relocate together. But what the world wants is for everybody to run away and live individualistic life. What do they call this? Nuclear family.
Family, yeah.
We have been so infected with it that we seem it is something good, but it's not. It is not. Because once you lose your lineage, you lose everything.
No.
That is why I said at the beginning, the work of the man of the house is to teach children and grandchildren about their family, to ensure that the families are bond, that you bond the family, to let them know that this is your uncle, this is your auntie, this is it. So what you are suggesting, sir, is quite possible and quite Islamic. That they should have known from the beginning that in case we suddenly die, they should have known that they have other parents, so that their children will also have grandparents, apart from their original, biological.
Yes.
So this is the great work we need to do. Most of the time, when we reach old age, we are so tired that we want to only concentrate on the few children that we have. But sometimes we forget that what we gained from the competition by living with the extended family, living in the family house, is not quantifiable. What about the competition? What about the family life? What about cooperation? There is no living together that doesn't have its own disadvantages. But if the disadvantages are the issues, how did we survive? Are we sure, for example, that it is not the polygamous environment out of which we grew that accounted for our success? Are we sure that we would have been this successful if our fathers had been monogamous? I'm just citing polygamy as an example.
Yes.
The extended family system have all advantages. Yes, few disadvantages, but with faith, it is very safe. With faith, what will happen will happen. Whether we take our children away from extended family members or not, what will happen will happen. But it is better that people know, our children know all our relations, especially the Muslims. Wallahu ta'ala alam.
Yeah. Jazakallah
khairan, everybody. We appreciate all our grandpa and grandma, especially the beauty chairman wife, Elijah Kadri, our grandma, Elijah Alima Bukarim, Professor Bukarim, Loba Amira, and all our senior citizens on this call. We realize that you are giving us courage. You that are coming behind, that this is a program to be for everybody at any time. So we thank you. For all of us that are coming up, I thank you that giving our time and resources. I pray Almighty Allah to make this program something that's going to pivot our life to the greatest. And whatever we hear here, you can see we are not as much here, but we can broadcast it. We can send it to people, and it can make something. You can make people to the better in life. Almighty Allah to accept this as act of ibadah. Jazakumullah khairan. Till next week again, you have a blessed week. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you, our coordinator.
السلام على المرسلين
والحمد لله.
Are you there?
Mo wà ń bẹ̀ wà lájì Arúgbódádé.
Alaikum salam wa barakatuh.
Assalamu alaikum gbogbo ilé o.
Mira General. Ẹ ṣeun arọ́wọ́ yín.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi. Please, can we get a recording of this meeting, please?
Yes, I saw
it. They'll post it on our platform. Inshallah.
I'm not on the platform. I'm sorry.
Okay. Maybe you reach out to. Can you reach out to me or to Imam so that we can add it to the platform? Because we don't know. Let me see your name and reach out to anybody among us that you know who add your number. It's always on the platform.
Put your number down now.
Put your number on the chat so that I can pick it up.
On the chat so that you can pick from there.
I just did that. I did that already.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.
You will have it, inshallah.
Yeah, did I do the same for me?
No problem, sir.
Larry?
Ẹ jẹ́ á sọ̀rọ̀ lẹ́yìn ètò lórí WhatsApp yín. Màá pè yín sìn.